Hey, Coach. Just kind of want to get your thoughts on what you learned from the first Utah game. Do you think the team maybe underestimated them a little bit? I mean, it was tight throughout, and what do you expect from them this time around?
No, I don't think we underestimated him. I know the coaches didn't. I don't think the players did either. I think they knew, rivalry game on the road is going to be a tough game, and they played well. I mean, look, those two guards, man, they've been torching the entire Big 12. That they're doing it to every team, and so I have a lot of respect for Coach Jensen and what they're trying to do there. And they played good. They played good, and we had to really gut it out. But I thought it was good for our guys to have to be in a hostile environment and come away and find a way to win.
It was a lot of players' first taste of the rivalry. Not all, obviously, but do they communicate to you just the intensity of it and what kind of atmosphere you expecting tomorrow?
Yeah, I think you look, man, as a competitor, man, you love playing in games like that where there's maybe a hint of bad blood and a hint of not a hint, but just full intensity with the fans. So, I know BYU fans will want to return the favor and make this an amazing atmosphere, down here, given what they did up there. And I know our guys are looking forward to playing in that.
All right, we'll go Mitch, Jason, Jay, then Jake.
Yeah, Kevin, last night on your coach's show, you noted that you kind of treated this week like an NBA All-Star break, and it was an opportunity to reevaluate where things are with your team. Was there any points of emphasis with you and the coaching staff that you really wanted to address with your team?
Yeah, I mean, we just looked at some stuff offensively from an execution standpoint. Do we have the requisite things we need to, walk a close game down? Which, generally speaking, I think the answer was yes. But want to look at that specifically and see if there was things we want to tighten up, add, or throw away. And we did all the above, and then worked on executing the things that we ultimately kept or stamped off on. And then defensively, just making sure we have things dialed in with our what I call our tool belt, being able to make adjustments, which we didn't do a good enough job in that Texas Tech game. And sometimes you got to learn the hard way, and that was certainly the case. But we feel like we've got some answers there moving forward, and it was a good little mental reset.
And just to follow up, how would you maybe describe how this week's practices have been from the guys after coming off a loss?
Henri, led by me. I think some of the guys as well, and that's kind of what you want. I thought today was great. A couple of days was a little bit more of a grind out, but it's a long season, and I think getting through a season mentally just as much as physically is a challenge in every year because there's so much that goes into it. So, I thought our guys found a way to help themselves get better and be focused, but still kind of be ticked off that we didn't get a win on the road.
Coach, with your transition from coaching in the NBA to coaching at BYU, what's it like coaching at a school where there is a prayer before every game and every class?
I love it, man. We did that in the NBA, believe it or not. The whole time I was with Monty Williams, we opened every single coaching meeting with a prayer, said a prayer in the locker room before every game. So, uh, I'm a God-fearing man, and I owe everything to him, and I love the fact that we get a chance to remind ourselves about that here at BYU and other places that I've been. I don't think it's super unique to BYU. I think it's more readily accepted elsewhere more than people think.
Just to follow up on that, have any of your guys talked to you about that aspect of BYU?
I don't know if we're not having full dialogues about it, but I think there's just a respect factor that goes into what happens here, whether you're a member of the LDS Church or not. I think people, we have quite a few, Muslims on our team. We have people that are different religions, and I think people respect the fact that, they can worship how and where they want and not feel any kind of way for it. So it's a great environment from that standpoint.
All right, thank Jason. We'll go Jay, Jake, and then Dana again.
Kevin, with obviously with another game coming Monday, how have you guys handled the scout and the approach with obviously the idea in mind that you don't do anything on Sundays?
Yeah, no, it's a interesting and thought-provoking topic, Jay, that you bring up. Obviously, your experience covering BYU, I'm sure that's not the first time that it's happened. I'm sure it'd be a interesting thing to see how people over the years in all sports have tackled that. I'm pretty singular focused. We got a game against Utah tomorrow. We need to win that ball game. we've talked about different things that are above board that we could do on Sunday to just make sure that we don't just show up on Monday and play the game. And we've kind of gone through the necessary channels to make sure we're following what's in line there, and we'll attack it that way. Also, like I said, not losing sight of the task at hand, which is to beat Utah.
And then obviously Hadim went down against Texas Tech. What's his status? And I'm sure we'll find out more tonight when the availability report comes out. But how's the overall health of your team?
Yeah, overall health is solid. Guys are banged up this time of year all across the board. As it relates to Hadim, I don't think it was as bad as it looked, and we'll see as the reports come or the updates come out.
Kevin, building off what Mitch asked earlier, I just want to ask about individually about AJ. You talked about getting like a bit of a mental reset. Do you feel like he needed that after the performance at Texas Tech?
I think you can look at it two ways. I think one of the great things about the NBA schedule, if you're going back to those days for me, is you lose a game, you got a game either the next night or the next night after that, right? You're never sitting on a loss for a week. So in a lot of ways, led by me, I wish we would have had a game already. You kind of have to sit on it for too long and stew on it, and you're just in a bad mood. And so I'm sure he's probably more that way. You'd have to ask him directly, but I think it's part of AJ's growth. Some games aren't going to be your game, and how do you respond in practice the next day? How do you respond in the next game? I think that says a lot about somebody, so I look forward to his response.
And you just mentioned the fact you guys had the extra time off out of these midweek buys this season. You didn't have that last year. Is it an advantage, disadvantage? Would you like to have it later in the season? How do you feel about it?
I don't feel really any way about it. It's just you just play the schedule as it's laid out. I'm a very there's always a way, there's always a good and everything. So that's just how we used it. Chance to reset, chance to get the guys a little bit more rest, focus on things we need to focus on, and be ready to go. Play another game. And truth be told, we're gonna have the same situation next week too because of the Monday game. You don't play again until Saturday. So again, for me, I'm big on reference points. That's why I liken that to the All-Star break. It's very similar, and those were always positive breaks in the action for our groups back in those days because it does give you physical and mental recharges, and I think it makes you better down the stretch.
All right, we'll go Dana, Mitch, and then we'll finish with Jay.
Coach, these are kids here. They can't help but look forward to the number one team in the country coming in on Monday. Is it good to have a rivalry game like this to avoid that quote unquote trap game where they're going to be focused on Utah and not look ahead to Arizona?
Look, if we went up to Salt Lake and beat Utah by 30, maybe. If we weren't coming off of a loss, maybe. It's a chance to compete. I don't think anyone's it's a human element. I'm not going to act like it doesn't exist, but look, Utah's a good team. They've played every team in our league for the most part very competitively. They got two of the best scorers in our league. And so everyone understands what the task at hand is. And, I don't think there's going to be any type of letdown or distraction given everything I just said.
Kevin, I wanted to ask you, the NBA is at the midway point of the season, and I was curious just how much you've been able to watch Yegor Dioman as he continues to navigate his rookie season, and also just ask, how important is it for your program to not only get guys to the league, but then have an impact as Yegor's having in year one?
I'm still trying to decide if I call him Dimon or Yeoman, so kudos to you for that. But it's wildly important. It's one thing to talk about, the NBA, we can get guys ready for it, and if they go there and they're not ready or they're not good, it doesn't give a lot of credence and legitimacy to what we're doing here. I've had a lot of conversation with Yegor and his circle, his agents and so forth, and his parents, and they've been very complimentary about his time here and how much it helped prepare him for the NBA, which I take great pride in that. That's one of the things I love about this particular job. It allows me to do what I love at a high level, but also do what I love at a high level in terms of the NBA as well, and not losing those relationships and everything that I learned in that league. So I find great joy in helping guys prepare themselves for the next level. AJ's up next, Richie's up next, and as we're on the recruiting trail, we're trying to find the next people that are going to be in line with that. So it's a big part of what we do. I think that's been well documented. I've loved to not only see his success, but his growth. You know, his ability to knock shots down, not lose confidence, and the fact that he's playing with a passion, he's playing with the purpose out there. You know, he sent me the other day, sent me a picture of him and KD kind of talking pregame. You know, sent me a picture of him and Steph talking pregame, and you know he's out living his dream, man, playing against the legends of the game, and it's really fun for me to sit back and watch, and I look forward to hopefully that being a thing that we are able to do year in and year out.
Thank you.
All right, we'll actually end with Jake. Jay didn't have a question, so Jake, you got the last question.
Yeah, Kevin, just kind of building off that a little bit, as you go about building these rosters, your brother was on that podcast with Adrian Wojnarowski and kind of talked about the like everyday nature of balancing this year's team versus looking towards the future. How do you do that as a head coach?
Yeah, it's one of the hardest things, if not the hardest thing to do as a college head coach. You know, you're trying to game plan for your opponent, but you have to you have to stay on top of the recruiting. You know, evaluation. You know, it's not just making recruiting calls; it's like evaluating players. Is this player someone that we like? You got to watch a lot of film and so forth. So I think I'm still learning the balance. You know, I'm relying on my staff quite heavily for that. I have an unbelievable staff. You know, we feel like we're well positioned in the recruiting space with people that we're looking at. And, you know, that landscape is obviously ever changing. You know, I think this week speaks to that more than ever, quite frankly. So I think the ability to adapt, to think on the fly, to be, you know, moldable and not be stuck in any one type of recruitment philosophy, I think is wildly important, which makes the job that much harder. So it's a lot to balance, but I have to give, you know, my entire staff a lot of credit for doing their job as it relates to that topic.
All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you tomorrow afternoon.
Thank you.